There are a lot of different postal companies all around the world, but there are a few powerful ones, and FedEx makes up one of those. For example, FedEx as a whole company has more than 700 aircrafts that goes all around the world, and they take packages and envelopes all around the globe. When you fill up a FedEx airplane, it is important that it gets to its destination safely. It may be for hundreds or even thousands of people. That is why the safety of these packages is the most important thing for FedEx. Sometimes it's so important that they're considering putting anti-missile system on their aircraft. There are a lot of different reasons why they want to do this, but one example happened in 2003 when a DHL aircraft was taken off in Baghdad airport. It was hit with a shoulder missile, kind of like a Stinger missile, but since it hit the edge of the aircraft, it could land safely without anybody getting hurt. You guys are probably familiar with shoulder-fired missile. These are rocket launchers that are very easy to operate, and a person could very easily learn how to operate it. That is why these weapons are used by terrible organizations usually. You have to know that when the Iraq War started, an insane amount of aircrafts all over Iraq were shot down with these shoulder-fired missiles. Some of these aircrafts were shot but never crashed, but most of them did crash, and it did kill thousands of people. After 9/11, the US lost a lot of money, but the biggest loss that was taken was the airliners, because after this attack, most of their airplanes was not working. In the US, there were more than 10,000 flights per year, but all of a sudden, it reached under 1,000 a year. And the problem wasn't just for the airliners, the airports were struggling as well. The idea of putting anti-missile systems on passenger aircrafts began right then and there, because they didn't want a simple missile to take out an airplane. Engineers first looked at military aircrafts and fighters, and they wanted to take their anti-missile system and put it on a passenger aircraft. The main companies that were working on it was Northrop Grumman and BAE System. Eventually, the system Northrop Grumman was designing was finished. It was basically an electronic eye that would be set underneath the aircraft, and it would look in every direction. And if there is a missile coming its way, with the help of its lasers, it could change the direction of the missile. They added this system on a few different aircrafts to test if it works correctly or not. But these aircrafts weren't actual airplanes. They were test machines that ran on wires like a chairlift runs on, and they shoot it from the bottom. It's not a chairlift wire, but it seems like it, and it moves at a very fast pace, and it's only used for testing for anti-missile systems. So they even test fighter jet sensors on this machine. The Northrop Grumman system passed the test with flying colors. Even though this system was advanced and very good for its time, but they never ended up putting it on any aircraft. One of the issues with that was that it was expensive, and the maintenance cost was ridiculous because they would have to test it all the time to make sure it's working correctly before it flies off. This was the issue the airliners in the United States had, but a lot of airliners outside of the US were interested in this machine. But obviously, the US government was not having any of it, and they declined their offer to sell it to them. They basically said, this is an aircraft technology for our military, and we just can't let it be put on different aircrafts that fly everywhere in the world. FedEx was one of those aircrafts, and even though it's an American company, but most of its aircraft is outside of the US. Over 2/3 of the 700 aircrafts FedEx has flies outside of the US. I'm not sure what kind of a system it was, but the price of it was $1 million installed. But this wasn't the biggest issue. Another issue was that it would cause a drag in the aerodynamics of the airplane, and it wouldn't let air pass as freely as before, and this will hurt fuel efficiency. And another problem was that it added 250 kilos of weight in the aircraft, and that even laid it down a little bit more. Even with all these problems, A lot of airliners wanted this system, but the US government would still decline their offer, and they threw the problem at the Pentagon. Pentagon declined their offer even harder because they said, if you add this to your aircraft and it leaves the United States, you're basically exporting US military weapons out of the country. You're basically selling an advanced sensor to another company. Based on US laws, a regular person or a regular company cannot take weapons made in the US out of the country. You could buy weapons in the US freely, but if you want to leave US land, you have to leave your weapon at home. Even if you want to drive across the border with your weapon, it's considered illegal. If your regular firearm is illegal, let alone a highly advanced military grade sensor, and it's gonna be in almost every country because FedEx flies everywhere. All this continues for about 10 years until we get to the year 2019, when FedEx themselves announced that if any company can make us a laser system that could deflect missiles at our plane, we will pay for the research and development, as long as the US government doesn't give them issues about having it or not. So why does FedEx want to spend all this money? It all has to do with insurance costs. When an aircraft is passing somewhere very dangerous, like Yemen where there is a war going on, the insurance cost is gonna be ridiculously high. That is why FedEx is thinking about putting an anti-missile system on their plane, so that lowers their insurance cost because it will make it a less riskier aircraft. Another airliner that was very interested in this system was Israeli airliner El Al, and it was mostly because in Tel Aviv some aircrafts were shot down. Until now, no airliner or company has been able to buy this system for their aircraft, and it all has to do with US regulation. Either way, they didn't let FedEx to create a system like this, nor any other airliner. Only a small company was able to get Pentagon's word to put them on their aircraft. That company is the Israeli airliner El Al we told you earlier, and this is the only company that's not a military that has a system like this.